I am going to X out of this, and then I'm going to presenter view. And then I got to drag this guy over here. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Did I do it? That's awesome. Okay. All right. Well, welcome. If this is your first time, or even if you've been here, I'm going to try and open this up because I don't like that once I share a screen, it doesn't let me see the chat so easily. So we're pretty informal here. And since I have issues with chat, if you guys have a question at any point in time, just feel free to unmute yourself and jump right in. So my name is Zahra Cruzan. I am the founder of Brand Author. We are a brand agency. And so what we do is we help our clients and small businesses to create branding systems that really leverage their business so that they can increase profitability and build that sustainable long-term brand instead of just messing with marketing with inconsistent results, right? And so today, we're going to do part 2 of a segment we did in January. And so we'll go, if you have any questions, ask me. I tried to keep the lesson good for the second half, but if you hadn't been to the first, but if any question comes up because you weren't here for the first, just ask the question for sure. And so what we're doing today, and the purpose of these last 2 classes and workshops has been to teach you guys how to incorporate your brand into your marketing and develop these marketing plans so that you can really leverage your brand. You're not starting from scratch, and to build marketing campaigns that are set up to bring you a return on your investment. So that is about it. Daniela, do you want to do any housekeeping stuff before I dive in?
Yes. So I just wanted to introduce Sarah. For those of you that don't know Sarah, she's awesome. She's kind of one of our star mentors here at Launch SA. So we appreciate her doing this just for the community, for entrepreneurs, because she does it for free for us, for free for you. So this is very valuable time. Even though she does this for a living, she understands the value of helping those that are starting out or just trying to figure out the kinks of the first steps of planning and everything for your business, right? So thank you, Sarah, for doing it, and thank you for the Brand Author team. They're awesome, and thank you for being here. If you have any questions, like Sarah said, she's open to interruptions, I guess, just so she doesn't go over the questions. You can always put them in the chat. If she misses them, I'll unmute myself and just make sure Sarah listens to that. We are recording the session, so don't feel like you can write stuff down, but it's been recorded and we put it up in our YouTube channel, so that way you can always view it after and just kind of focus on the session and maybe the exercises that Sarah has you doing, right? So thank you again, Sarah, and we'll get started.
Awesome. Well, let's dive right in. So really quickly in the chat, which I know it's hard, but type a Y in the chat box if you operate and you run your marketing off of campaigns, and type an N in the chat box if you do marketing, you just don't run them off of campaigns. It's kind of, you know, it's February 5th and Valentine's Day is around the corner, so I should probably throw up a Valentine's Day social media post or something, maybe do a coupon. And it's more last minute. And then type a 0 if you don't have a business, or if you have a business that you've just started and you haven't actually done any campaigns for. I just kind of want to get a feel of the room. Somewhere in here, I should be able to see the chat box. Well, oh, there. It's on your screen. Okay, cool. Okay. So yeah, so you are in good company, because as you can see, we're all of us in a very similar boat, right? Most of us don't have consistent campaigns that we run, and so that's why we're all here, to learn how to do that. So if you were here last week, what we talked about, so if you haven't seen the video, I would encourage you to go back and do that, because it really is the foundation for what we're going to do today. And what we did last month is we unpacked I showed you guys how to unpack the marketing that you had done in the past, whether they were organized campaigns or just last minute kind of, oh no, it's St. Patty's Day is coming up, I got to have something kind of marketing. And from that, we learned. And so one of the powerful things about marketing, and one of the things that make marketing firms so valuable and why they get paid so much money to make you money, and you're like, I don't get it. I was doing social media. I made no money off of it. I hired a marketing firm to do it, and they made a ton of money for me. And they did it on the same platforms I did. Well, the reason that is because they learn. So one of the biggest pieces of the marketing is pulling your analytics, pulling your numbers, looking at them, interpreting them, learning from them, and optimizing them. And that's how you start to spend less to make more. And that's really, I don't care what business you're in the business of sales and marketing and branding. And that's true if you have a service, if you're a personality, a guru, a thought leader, a product brand. You or someone on your team has to have that background and be able to do that. And so, and it's not as hard as it first appears. I know it can look scary sometimes with the graphs and the charts and the percentages, but it really is an acquired taste. And once you acquire the taste, you will love it because it will give you consistency. It will give you better results in your marketing. So last month, we learned how to segment and rate your audiences. So of all the people you sell to, we grouped them up and then we gave them a rating. Who was an A client, who was a B client, who was a C client. And what that helps us do is that helps us understand how much you're willing to spend to get an A client versus a C client. And so when we look at campaigns, if it's a campaign geared for a C client, we know what our budget is versus somebody who's an A client. So what do I mean by that? Well, I'll give you an example of our business. We have companies that come in for a basic branding, package that's maybe $10,000 all the way up to six-figure retainers. So the amount of money that I'm willing to spend to acquire a $10,000 sale versus a six-figure sale is a lot different, right? Because I'm making more with one than the other. So I'm willing to invest a little bit more with one than the other. And so sometimes what happens as small business owners is we treat everybody the same as far as how we campaign to them. And so what we do when we start to segment them and rate them is we know, okay, well, this is the entry-level product, or this is, the person who's doing, something that's not a huge sale for me. It's a good sale. It's not one of my bigger sales. So I still want to market to them. I'm just willing to spend less to do it with. And when we don't do that, we see our marketing budget go crazy. So that was one thing we learned to do. We also learned how to calculate the cost to acquire a new customer. So when we look at all the marketing we did and we looked at all the new customers that we got, we were able to understand that on average, it cost me $5, $3, $100 to get a new customer. And so when we put that against our sales goals, in order to hit my sales goal, I need 1,000 new customers, and I know it costs me $5 to get that. This should be my budget, and help you to budget that. We also learned how to figure what the value of a new customer value was. So what does that mean? That means that what is the price that they're buying for that one, that when they come in on your signature offer, what are they spending? So we know I'm spending $1 to make 10, or I'm spending 50 cents to make 1,000, whatever that ratio is, so that we understand how well our marketing is performing or not performing, as the case may be. We also learned how to calculate the lifetime value of a customer. And that's what that customer will spend with you over the term of your relationship. So an example of that would be, maybe I did a marketing campaign and I did something, say I owned a makeup company, and I said, okay, well, with any purchase of $35, you'll get a little clutch of a lip gloss and an eye makeup remover. I don't know, let's make that up, right? So that was my campaign. I offered this little freebie upgrade in exchange for you buying a $35 foundation. And then I track it. And over the year, so maybe I spent $10 on that clutch. for a $35 sale, and that maybe doesn't look very smart. But then I look over and I said, well, they love that lip gloss so much, and that eye makeup remover so much, that they went back and they bought a full-size one the next month. And then they loved those, and I sent them, you know, and then they bought later another foundation, and then they bought a mascara and then a lipstick. So throughout the course of that year, they spent another $300 with me. And so now you look at that $10 you spent to get them versus the $300 that they spent with you throughout the course of that relationship. And now that starts to make sense. And so really looking at all these numbers and how they play out help us to understand and really think through our marketing. The idea here is to spend less time executing a ton of marketing that we don't know is working, and spending more time to plan fewer but more strategic marketing campaigns that you can track and measure, and then get those running on autopilot, get those running consistently, bringing you reliable revenue. And then you can start to add more campaigns and more campaigns. What happens when we do a ton of campaigns all at once without tracking them, measuring them, it just turns into a money pit. Anybody here ever felt, you just tip a Y into the chat box if you've ever felt like marketing is kind of a money pit, or has been historically for you? Yeah, exactly. Been there, done that. Really broke. Not fun. So we're going to change all that today, and we're going to move into the second part of the marketing plan, and that's creating a marketing campaign. So first we have to unpack and understand what our business has done marketing wise, and now we're going to use that knowledge to create a really smart campaign moving forward. And if you've never done a campaign before, or you know, you just kind of dabbled in marketing here and there, I would encourage you to go through the practice anyways. You might not think you have a lot of information if you're just going off your memory, but once you go back and try and hunt down this information, you'll find that you have more information than you think you do. So give yourself that that time to go back and do that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is marketing strategy versus marketing campaign. So your marketing strategy is overall, what are you trying to achieve? What are your overall, what's your overall methodology? And so last week when we made our goals, and we'll talk about that again here in a second, we determined we're determining a strategy to accomplish those goals. So when you think of a marketing strategy, you want to think of it as an overall approach. So, you know, if you had a fitness strategy, you know, it would be an overall, it would be a combination of a bunch of different things that you did to try and overall achieve fitness, health, whatever, you know, whatever your goal was. And then you can think of a marketing campaign as the project that helps you achieve. It's part of your strategy. So the campaign itself are these little projects within the overall strategy. So for instance, if you did, I don't know why I went into health, because that's not a good example for me. I have no idea. Let's just say you were doing some kind of, you were training for a 5K. So your strategy was you were going to build up your endurance. You were going to, you know, run a 5K. So that would be your strategy, is you're going to build endurance through these cardio exercises and all of that. Well, a campaign would be the isolated thing you do. Maybe, you know, a run on a treadmill for 20 minutes in the morning. And maybe another campaign would be, you know, working out in the evening outside so that you can get used to the weather or the asphalt or whatever it is that you're wanting to do. So these are little projects within the overall strategy. Now, before I go to the next slide, if anybody was, this is fun. Anybody was here from last month, if you could answer this question, put it in the chat box. The first person to answer it will get a book from me. Just send me your email me your home address, and I'll have it sent over to you. What is the percentage of your revenue that you should be putting towards marketing when we set a budget for marketing? Whoever knows that percentage, whoever remembers it from last time, type it in the chat box. Close, Julie. It's a little high. Yes, Maricela, you got it. Okay, so Maricela, I'm going to type in my, okay. So send your mailing address and your name to that email address and we'll get a book sent over to you. This was so much easier when the world wasn't in shambles and we used to be in person. I could just hand it to you, but we'll make it work. Awesome. Okay, yes. So marketing budget should be between 10 and 12% of your revenue. We talked about this last time. The reason that's important is because if you're spending too much on this, if you're spending more than 15%, then this is a range. Every business is different, but it's pretty darn accurate. If you're spending more than 15% of your revenue on marketing, then you have ineffective marketing. What's more is you are robbing yourself of money that should be spent somewhere else on putting together a stellar product, of paying yourself, of a profit margin that you should have that maybe you don't. It's not okay to be spending more than 15%. The exception to that is when you're launching and you've got to have a startup budget when you're marketing because nobody knows who you are and you understand that that's your first year and you've got to ante up a little bit more. That's just the cost of doing business. But once you're leveled out, once you're in year 2 and 3, you should settle into this rhythm. If you're spending less than 8% of your revenue on marketing, then you've put yourself in a very scary situation because either you're not getting the marketing results you want, and that's because you're not investing, right? Or you're holding steady for now, but you don't have any money. You're not building or scaling your business and you have no profit. You're not building it fast enough and to get your volume high enough to have your profit healthy enough that when something catastrophic like COVID or even inconvenient happens and you've got to adjust in some way, you don't have that cushion there because your sales aren't there. So if you're not spending at least 8%, 10 to 12 is healthy, at least 8% of your revenue on marketing, and you're not getting the results that you want and you're not growing as fast as you'd like, that's a really big red flag that you want to look at. It's really important. One of the things I do a mentorship program, and one of the first things that we talk about is your brand is an investment like anything else, and your marketing. It's not a magic pill. It's an investment, and you've got to put that percentage in. If you only put 2% of your revenue to your 401k, you're not ever going to retire. Like there's just no way, right? You're never going to grow that money fast enough to do what you want it to do. And in the same way, if you're not investing into the growth of your business in a high enough percentage, you're never going to hit that minimum threshold. You're never going to get to that point where you can scale it. And so that's something that you have to make the space for, because if you don't, the idea is always, well, when I make more money, I'll spend more on marketing. But then my question always is, well, how will you make more money if you're not spending that much on marketing? And so it's this catch-22. And so I do harp on it a little bit because most often, the marketing campaigns can use work, but a lot of times it is just a matter of not putting enough behind it. It does you no good to spend $200 on Facebook ads a month. That'll get you nowhere. If you're not spending $1,500, you're not getting it to where it needs to be. And so I know a lot of times we hear these extreme examples of people who were able to grow their business to $1 million by spending no money, but that is definitely an extreme example. And I would actually question that. I'd like to see that. So always, keep in mind what your budget is, making space for that. If you don't have the 10%, make that a goal of yours for this year. By the end of the year, I'm going to be spending this much on my marketing to grow it. So last month, we touched on this a little bit, and the homework assignment was for this month was to set your goals. So we talk about, goals in marketing, and one of the things that we say is our automatic reaction when we set goals for marketing is I have to make a certain amount of money. So we all have a money goal, right? I want to make X amount in marketing. I want my marketing to make me X amount in sales, and that's great. You should have a money goal, but also include how. So one of the things that a lot of companies focus on is new customer acquisition, and that is important, but it's not the only goal to have, because new customer acquisition is much more expensive than selling either in making a one-time customer a loyal customer, or turning a loyal customer into a raving fan, which means they no longer just buy your foundation, they buy everything you make, right? All of your stuff, and you're cross-selling them. That's a lot less expensive. And so often when we think of campaigns, our campaigns are geared to find new people in the world who don't know us to know us and like us and buy from us. And we don't really have any campaigns geared at our current customers and our current client base, and who the people are. How do we foster that relationship with the people who already love us and who already know us and who have already proven that they will spend money with us? And that's a much easier task than to go and find. And when you're new in business, or when you're a solopreneur and you're the janitor and you're the CFO and you are the copywriter, you really want to make that as easy as possible for yourself. And so really diving deep, it also will help you to understand and get a better idea of who your customer is, demographically, psychographically, what that looks like, not just what their experience is, not just their hobbies, not just their, how much money they make, but also what is their motivating factor? What are their fears? What are their frustrations? Meeting them where they are so that you can take them to the promised land, which is now having worked with you or gotten your product that will solve that problem for them. So always definitely have your revenue goal, but other goals that you can think of to set for yourself as far as your marketing is my margin. So how many of you right now know what your gross profit margin is on all of your items? Type a Y in the comments if you know what that is. Okay, so your gross margin is, it cost me exactly $1 to build this burger, and I sell it for $2. So I make $1 off of this one burger. That's a gross margin. You have your overall business margin, your overall business profit, but then you have your gross margin, so every item. So one of the, oh, awesome. Brooke, you're my hero. That's cool. So one of the first things that one of the goals that you can have is to increase that margin and push that envelope. When we first started out, and I was a freelancer doing branding and copy and whatnot and messaging and whatnot, I didn't charge what I charged now. Now, as I've grown, the product's grown, the deliverables grown, my experience has grown. So, the price has gone up, but also our margin has increased. So one of the first things that we look to do is, well, how do we provide a better experience and a better product than our competitors that would make us more valuable? And how can we use that to increase our profit margin? So if you're selling, I'll give you an example. We once worked with a company that were at a farmer's market, and they had these organic ingredients, and they spent a ton of money on the best ingredients. They did everything small batch. It was really a quality product, but they packaged it in this terrible Knorr's container with an inkjet smudgy label on it that I think was like a, when you print out a sheet for your envelopes, your return address, and they could not understand why they couldn't sell this product. It was a superior product. And and I said to them, well, because it doesn't look like a superior product, right? You can't sell it at your price point because it doesn't look like it's organic. once they buy it and they taste it, of course they're hooked for life. It's delicious and it's quality, but they got to buy it. They got to pick it up off of your stand, and they're not going to do that because of how it looks. So you've got to spend more on packaging. And instantly we got the kickback of, well, I can't even sell it for this. If I add cost to my packaging, I'll be even in a worse situation, because if they won't buy it for $8, they sure won't buy it for $8.25. It's like, okay, well, I guarantee you, if we change the packaging, you could sell it for 10. And sure enough, once you change the packaging, now they're getting sales. They're able to even increase what they're charging. Same exact product, the margin actually increased for them. They were able to sell it for more by spending more, and their margin, their profit margin, was still higher. And so you can make goals for yourself that are not just in how do I get new customers. It's all about being smart and working with what you have. Where can I grow? You can also look at your cost per lead. So another thing that we've done with customers is we look at their cost per lead and say, okay, right now it's costing you $19 to get a new customer, and that customer is making an $80 purchase. That's too high a cost. That's definitely outside of the 10 to 12% range. So what can we do to lower this down to $6? And so working at that as a goal. So maybe you're making enough sales and your revenue's coming in. It's just taking you, it's just costing you way too much to hit that sales goal. And so what can you do to reduce that cost per lead? Another goal you might have is increasing the customer lifetime value. So maybe your goal is, well, we want to grow our sales by 20% this year, and we'd like 10 of it to come from people who are already our customers, and they're just buying more often from us, or they're buying other products or services that we have. They're going to go from the basic to the Cadillac. That's going to be where 10% of our revenue comes from. Or creating a new segment. So maybe it is, well, we've been selling to moms. I'd like to know if we could sell to college girls too. It could be just adding a new segment in. Anybody have any questions on setting goals? So with most things, I can tell you that my favorite way to do stuff is on a white sheet of paper. And I will just start mapping. So if ever you feel lost, overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, there's so many goals. She just opened up Pandora's box and now I'm thinking of a million different goals I should be having. Just write them all down, just brain dump on a sheet of paper, and then let it lie. Go back tomorrow, look at it, and start to edit it down. And don't throw that paper away, because maybe what wasn't a great goal for you this year may be a good goal for you to look at next year. But I always, when you're feeling overwhelmed, just get it all out of your head, put it on a sheet of paper, and then you can strategically go out and edit it. And so the way that I edit is, what's a good idea versus what's a good idea for right now, right? What is the next step? So when I look at marketing, I could write a book, I could do speaking engagements, I could, do LinkedIn articles. But what is the thing what is the next step? Is the next step for me to write a LinkedIn article, or is the next step for me to take 2 years to write a book? What's right for me? What makes sense? What do I have the capacity for right now? And so after you've brain dumped all the different things that you can do, I want you to go in and also list your resources. So one of the best business coaches I ever had once talked me down off of like a really bad situation. And I remember I was new in business. I had just started. I was just starting my freelance business, and I was talking to my coach, and I said, you know what? I don't know what to do. I've got to hit this, sales goal, and I have no list. I have no marketing budget. I have no. And it just seems terrible. And he's like, all right, well, you've told me what you don't have. What do you have? Like, what do you have in your tool belt? And I said, well, I've got a phone book. I have contacts from my previous life and, the advertising and work I used to do. I have, connections, and I have, I guess I do have some money. I could take a few people out for coffee, and, little by little, I started to fill up that tool belt, maybe not with what I thought I needed, but it's with what I had. And with whatever you have is exactly what you need to get the job done. So look at what you have first. How much time do you have? What other resources do you have? Do you have a couple templates that you held on to? Maybe some marketing campaigns that didn't perform great, but you could use them as a starting point, and edit them down. Maybe it's connections that you have. Maybe you're sitting on a lead list you just never did anything with. It could be anything. And then obviously the money that you have, like how much money do you have to work with? So you have your ideas, now you have your tool belt, and this is what's going to help you to start editing down your options and saying, well, this is a great idea. I would need X amount of money and X amount of time, so it doesn't make sense. So let's just say, you had an idea to put together a big campaign, and it was going to take you 90 days to put together, but you didn't have that kind of time. Well, you can start to whittle them down. So you set your goals, you know what resources you have. Oops. I don't know why something's weird on my computer. Hang on. Sorry, guys. And when in doubt, remember, specific, measurable, actionable, risky, timed, exciting, and relevant. When you make a goal, you want to have your goal specific to an amount, to a time. You want to have it measurable. You need to be able, you can't say, I want to get better at copy. That's not measurable. What you could say is, I want my copy to convert at 5% more better, or something that's measurable. Actionable, what's the plan? It's got to be a little risky, or you're not business owners, right? You're not entrepreneurs. You got to give it a time, you got to give it a deadline. And then I got these last two from Michael Hyatt, and I think he's a tremendous thought leader in focus and accountability for business owners. And what he says is that your goals also have to be exciting. If you're not excited about them, it's just a box that you feel you have to check because you're a business owner and all the other business owners check that box, you're likely not going to do it. And so always whenever we make goals and plans and everything, as a team, we get together and then we ask that question. Are we going to do it? Or are we just going to waste a lot of energy talking about it and half doing it and then deciding that we weren't that excited about it and not doing it after all? And so if it's not exciting for you, you're just going to waste energy on it. So it's got to be something that you're interested in. And then, is it relevant? Is this goal going to get you what you really want? Is it really going to move you forward towards your vision for your brand? Okay. Anybody have any questions? No? Right. We're trucking right along. Okay. So if you were here last month, you also saw this pyramid. So when you build your campaigns, I want you to think of them in terms of, is this an advertising campaign? Meaning this is about who I am. It's not selling a product. It's about your brand identity and who you are. Your marketing is your product or your service. So your marketing is, I know who you are. I identify with you. I feel the same way about this as you do. The marketing is your tool. What's in your tool belt? This is the product or service that you've created because you believe what you said you believed down in your identity.
Sorry, are you supposed to be sharing your screen? Just
yes. Did it stop sharing?
Yeah, we don't see the slides.
Oh no, how long has that happened?
I think I thought you were trying to fix it, but there you go. Okay.
Did you guys see this one?
I think it was one before that. Let me see.
This one?
Yes, I don't think we saw that one.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
But I mean, but you already went over it, right?
Yes. So specific, measurable, actionable, risky, timed, exciting, and relevant. This is how you want to make your goals. And these are the final two that I picked up from Michael Hyatt. I think he's fantastic. And then this is the one that we are on now, which was the next slide. So your advertising is about who you are. Your marketing is about your product. And then your sales is just overcoming objections. Will it work for me? Building that last final bit of trust to give you that tipping point, that edge, and get them to get somebody who's interested to be a customer. So you've got your sales, your marketing, your advertising. So when you're designing and developing out these campaigns, you want to ask yourself, is this an advertising campaign? Is this a marketing campaign? Is it a sales campaign? Or is it layering one or two of these in combination? Now, your advertising should be done on the daily. This is done all day, every day, 24/7, regardless of the season, the weather, the holiday. This is a beacon to the people who believe what you believe and are willing to pay top dollar for what you have to offer because they geek out on it. So when we talk about neuroeconomics, which is the study of buying behavior and how we develop psychographic profiles, one of the things that we look at when we do our research is what is their core belief? So everybody is passionate about some things and completely apathetic to others. So I'll give you an example. I love to spend extra money on organic, cruelty-free, vegan skincare and makeup products. I refuse to spend, however, and I'll spend extra money on that. However, I refuse to spend more than $60 on a purse. I cannot even fathom spending $1,000 on a purse. That's just me. So just because I'll spend money on makeup doesn't mean I'm going to spend like that on everything. Some things matter to me and some things don't. Someone else might spend hundreds of dollars a month on pedicures and manicures and think that spending on a gym membership is a waste of money, right? So some things are, everybody has things that matter to us and things that like, not so much. And so when you do your advertising campaigns properly, that is a beacon to the people who believe what you believe about whatever it is that you do, right? So some people think that branding is just an extra thing, like a little, like it'd be cool if you had it, but you know, it's not something you really pay for. It's not something you really invest in. Just, you know, you just make the product and focus on the product and hope that one day it'll become a brand. Those are not our people, right? We're looking for the people who believe that to be successful and stand the test of time, they've got to be brand focused. They've got to be focusing on the brand. If they're focused on the brand, then everything that follows, including the product, is going to level up to the standard you've set as a brand. And the people who believe that are the people that we're looking for. And so our messaging and our advertising speaks to that. And so the people who don't really believe in brand and are like, well, it's a checkbox, all entrepreneurs should spend money on a logo. They're not looking for me. They're looking for Fiverr graphic designers. So my job in advertising is to say the things that I believe about branding so that the people who are like, no, this is important, I want to invest in it, they can find me. And they can find me because I'm saying the things that they believe, that brand's important, that this is the measure. If you want a business that you're going to love 30 years from now, that's true to your vision and the impact you want to make, and you're finding people that you love to work with and you're hiring people that you love to work with that actually get it, you've got to take the time to build out those brand standards. Those people are finding me because of what I'm saying. And that's why advertising is so important. Because if I didn't have advertising, I'd spend a lot of time on discovery calls with people that were only willing to spend $200 on a logo. And that's not what we do, right? And so if you're not spending that money and time and developing campaigns for advertising, you're really missing the core. You're making yourself work harder and not smarter. So we've all seen those Nike commercials, right? And I went over this last time if you guys were here, and you've got that, you know, they're sweating and there's a voiceover and they're talking about the spirit of competition and being the best and having the best and doing the best and really being competitive, because that's what they believe. They believe that that's how they make their shoes, and that's how they, you know, that's why they spend so much time on R&D, and that's why their shoes cost so much. You may not buy Nike, but you understand, the world understands why you're spending more for a Nike shoe than you are, you know, well, a Target shoe. You know, there's a real understanding of why that is. Even if you're not willing to buy Nike, you understand it's a better quality. And so people who are looking for better quality shoes naturally gravitate towards those higher end brands like Nike. And that's why Nike spends so much money to not market a shoe to you, but to market an idea. You know, you go through that whole long commercial that costs millions that they're syndicating all over the world. And at the end, you have no idea. You never got a really good look at the shoe. You got a good look at their logo at the end. They spend that kind of money on advertising because they understand that if they want to be able to sell a shoe for $110 instead of $20, that they've got to make that investment there. And so likewise, as you guys are doing your posts and your campaigns, pay attention to your advertising. Make sure that you're speaking to who you are, what you believe about what it is that you do. Then you have your marketing, and that marketing is where you put the product in front of them. This is where you show them all the cool features and bells and whistles and what makes you different product wise. And that because you believe, you know, because we believe this about branding, we put the system together and we give you, you know, an entire guideline so that you know how to use it, where to use your logo, how to place it, how to do your colors, how to do your photography so that it all looks right. And that's what we talk about, the features. So this is where you get into your product, your features, your, you know, the technology that you use, your patented, you know, process, whatever that is. And then you get into the sales, and this is where you're reducing the risk. This is where you're answering questions. If you have a guarantee or a warranty, if you ever do some kind of coupon or trial, that's where the sale is. It's just reducing the risk, overcoming obstacles, and getting people to give you a try. This also happens all the time. Your marketing happens in projects, in campaigns. That happens in designated times, but your advertising and your sales should always be running on full blast, full steam. So again, on a piece of paper, I want you to brain dump now all of your ideas for campaigns, all the things that keep you up late at night and wake you up in the morning about, oh, I should do a Groupon. Oh, I should do a podcast. Oh, I should write a book. Oh, I should join a BNI or, you know, a digital something, networking. I should send gifts. I should, you know, try and get on HEB shelves, whatever it is. All of those, well, that's not really a campaign. I should try and, you know, advertise, you know, on HEB receipts, whatever it is, right? So all of those ideas for marketing campaigns, things that throughout your day just kind of like fall into your brain, and now you have anxiety that you have to do it and you should do it. Start dumping them down on a piece of paper. And I would encourage you, if you have like a journal. It's so great. My husband makes fun of me because I have an iPad and I still have to idea on paper. It's just how my brain works. But if you have a little journal, carry it with you. Or if you want to set up like a memo on your cell phone, or if you have an iPad and something that as these ideas come to you, you just write them down. No, there's no idea that's a bad idea right now. We're just dumping out all the ideas on a piece of paper. And then once you've done that, you're going to evaluate and choose the best ideas. And these are the questions you want to ask when you evaluate and choose it. This is just a screenshot of ours and how we evaluate. So runway. So how much time do I need? So your launch runway is how much time do I need to pull this together? If I'm writing an ebook, if I'm doing a speaking engagement and I got to put together a PowerPoint presentation or whatever that is, how much time do I need before I can get it done? Now, is it date specific? Can it run in any time frame, or does it have to be around a holiday or a specific? And then how long does it need to run for? Am I going to put this up for a week? Is it a one-day event? What are the dates that I'm looking at? How much is it going to cost me? What's my budget for this? And then how much do I estimate I'll make out of this? So if I spend 2 weeks time, which is 80 of my hours times my hourly rate, to get it, put it together, and another 10 hours working executing the campaign, and then I spend another $5,000 on the ad spend, what's my estimated return? How much do I think I'm going to make off of this? And this is a really important question to ask before you pull the trigger on a marketing campaign, because if you're not asking this question, then you don't know if it's worth it. If you do the math here and you say, man, it was a really cool idea, but once I do the math, it's essentially going to cost me $5,000 plus about another $5,000 worth of labor. And my segment's so small, I don't think I'll make more than, $10,000. So for all that time and energy, I'm not going to, it may not be the best option, right? It's not really going to make me much money. And then you want to design out your campaign cycle. So what do they need to know about you to find value in this? What will you feature in this offer? What makes this a no-brainer? So what makes this so cool? So what's the offer going to be from beginning to end? And we're going to revisit that here in a second, but just what are the main points? And I just do a big thing here. Most of the time we either just bullet it or we draw it out, just to kind of see what would this even look like. If we did an ebook, what does it look like? What are the points? We need to have a landing page, a subscribe form. What are all the components here? If I've done it before, what are lessons from the last time? This is one of the best things ever that we do as a team, because this is where we remember, what did we do last time that cost us too much, that we messed up, so that we don't do it again? And then what platforms would I put this on? Now, in a second, when we go through mapping it out, you're going to see why this is so important. But where am I putting this? And what you'll find, and the reason that we do this is once you've filled out 10 of these for 10 of your best ideas that you're trying to decide which of these I'm going to do, you'll start to find some similarities. So if you say, okay, well, of these 10 great ideas, 7 of them are on Instagram and 3 of them are on LinkedIn, and I'm a one-man band, then maybe I do Instagram next year or next quarter, and I focus on the ones that are LinkedIn, because that's going to be easier for me to really work on that one platform instead of, one's on Pinterest, one's on Instagram, one's on Facebook, spreading yourself out really thin. So, one requires travel and you're just all over the place. Then put it on a calendar so you can lay it out throughout the year. I've got this campaign going, all 4 of these were St. Patty's Day ideas, but then I have nothing April, May, June. So I got to choose one of the St. Patty's and find something for, this area here in the summer. It'll also help you. One of the things that we do is we have highlighted specific times. So for us, January, February, and March are really important months for us, because the summer is historically dead season for us. So we have to squirrel away, and we've got to be sales monsters January, February, and March, because we know it's got to carry us through the summer. And so we know that we are heavy on the campaigns in these 3 months. And then we know that we spend a little less in April and May, because it's just not when people are working on their brands typically. And then we start hitting it up really hard in June, because we know come September that people get really busy again. And so we've had these ads starting to go through and working their magic. So by the time September rolls around, it's a well-oiled machine, and we've got our leads, ready to go. So the calendar is helpful, because you can see where you have a lot of campaigns bunched up together, where you have long gaps that you need to fill. And then also you can look at your own seasons and, or maybe if you have something like, oh, I have to renew my license every July, so I can't take on a lot of new clients. So I wouldn't want to spend a lot of money on advertising in June because I'd have to push them off anyways. So you can kind of see how that all maps out for you. It's really good if once you do this year, next year, put your sales over it. So when you say, once you have this final calendar, save it. And then next year, when you are done with the year and you have what you sold in January, February, March, take a look at that because you'll also be able to see patterns. I ran this campaign for all of January and February, and I saw a huge increase in sales March, April, and May. You can start to see how things are, what your sales cycle looks like. It's really helpful to see everything laid out for you. Then you want to put an SOP together for it. So once you've decided this is the campaign I'm running, you want to put together a process. So this is just an example of a blog, right? If you decide that's the campaign you're going to run. So, well, step one is to write the blog title. Step two, I got to do the research. Then I got to write the blog. Then I have to proof it. Then I have to add the photos. Then I have to upload it and save it as a draft. Then I have to create a freebie. And you just on and on and on. This is going to help you make this more accurate for next year if you've never done this before. It's good. It's also going to help you hire help and outsource because a lot of this marketing stuff you'll need. So whether you're doing a virtual assistant somewhere, a lot of times when we work with and we mentor new entrepreneurs, we say, okay, well, you need to get help. The two most common responses we get are either I can't afford help, or even if I could afford help, I wouldn't know what to do with them. I wouldn't know what to give them because it's all in my head. So this is an easy way, and it's simple. It's not a fancy SOP. It's just a list. It's just a checklist. And you can start to pass off part of this so that you can do more marketing, but you got to make this first so you can start passing it off. So just start mapping it out. The reason that we map it out is for a couple of reasons. Number one, you can now get help so that you do have something to pass off to someone. You can hire that part-time intern or whatever to start getting help. But also because it will double check your work. So maybe you're like, oh, I forgot about that part. I have to spend $100 to make a landing page, or, oh, I have to get my podcast edited, and that's another, $200 an episode or whatever that is, right? So you'll start to find expenses that maybe you had forgotten about. And then it also helps you to find gaps in how maybe you're underutilizing your marketing. And that's what we're going to talk about now. Where is mapping it out? When you do a marketing campaign, and as you're designing your marketing campaign and you're going through your list, you have to make sure that you have both a direct and a transitional CTA. What does that mean? A call to action for those of you guys who so when you do a call to action, it is buy now, learn more. It is asking them to make a move, whatever that is. Download here, whatever that is. Now, when you have your call to actions, you're going to want to have a direct call to action, which is a direct call to start working with you. Get started now, purchase now, add to cart, buy now, register here, book an online appointment here. That's your direct. That's asking them for the conversion. Now, the transitional call to action is almost like the downsell, right? So if you can't get them to book now, register now, buy now, add to cart, whatever, then what is the what's the transitional call to action? So maybe it isn't, so maybe you have a landing page for your marketing campaign and it is book a photo shoot with me. That's your direct. Your transitional would be an indirect, like click here to read the latest on wedding photo trends or something, and it's a blog or a digital magazine or something that you've done. That's transitional. So if you won't marry me, can we at least go on a date? Will you at least give me your email address? And so you want to have them both, because when you're spending money on campaigning, you don't want to walk away empty-handed. And so if you're going to spend that $5,000 anyways, how can we boost your odds? Maybe I didn't get a sale off of it, but I at least got an email address off of it that I can use, at a later time to try and take another pass at them, right? To try and get them to buy later. So maybe you didn't buy a sale, but you did buy an email address, and you've got to look at your money in that way. You've got to look at your spend in that way. What can you get out of it? And so when you map it out, and as you're creating this list of how it's going to work, you'll be able to find places where you can upsell them or take a second run at them. So you'll also want to check to make sure that you have that upsell or you have that second run ready in the wings. So if you book the discovery call with them and they don't want to buy your all-day spa, would they at least be interested in a facial, or that, or they bought the facial, do you have an upsell ready? Would you like the facial and the pedicure? Or would you like the facial and the massage? Would you like the all-day spa? What do you have ready to maximize that sale, to give them the best experience they can, to give them the VIP treatment? The other thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that in this process, you have added segmentation and automations for a tailored experience. So what does that mean? So has anybody here ever been to a webinar? Just type a Y in the comments if you have. I don't know why it stopped showing me that. Maybe it didn't. Oh, Lydia, you were trying to tell me about the slides. I'm sorry. I just saw your message now. Yeah, okay, so you've been to great. So you are scrolling Facebook. So we're gonna walk you through a campaign. You're scrolling Facebook and you see don't you hate it when your kids won't eat what you make for dinner? Hi, I'm Mary. I had that same problem and I designed a perfect menu that kids love that are very healthy. If you want to learn how to feed your kids healthy without the hassles and arguments, click here for my free class. So you click the Facebook ad, you give them your email address, and you wait for your class. So here's what's happening on the back end. When you submit that form in, it's going into an it's going into a CRM, and that CRM is capturing the email. It's applying a tag for somebody that is going to this webinar on this date. And then they will get a sequence of timed dripped emails that were already pre-written that are going in order to, hey, thanks for joining, here's the link. Hey, don't forget, tomorrow's our class. Hey, our class starts in 1 hour. And you get all these. These are not happening in real time. This has already been pre-done and set on a scheduler. Now it's the day of the webinar. Half the people are going to show up and half the people aren't. So the webinar comes on and they have a little mini class. And then at the end, Mary says, if you want my full program, it's yours for $99. Click this button and sign up today. Half the people are going to take her up on it and half the people aren't, right? So then what happens? Well, some people just take half the sales and run. But the smarter smarter business owners see that opportunity. They have spent $1 per click or whatever it is to get 5,000 people into that webinar. So it's great that they sold, 2,500, but the other 2,500, what happens? Do they just go away? No. So what happens is they are put in segmentation. So the people who buy are put into one group, and they get the thanks for buying, welcome to the club, here's your receipt, glad to have you on board series of emails for the next several weeks. Another group is going to get the, hey, thanks for coming to the webinar. I saw you didn't buy, and then they take another pass at them. Did you know our class has X, Y, and Z? Now, there's a third segment, and these are people who signed up for the webinar but never went to the webinar. And they're going to get a different set of emails that say, hey, I saw that you missed the webinar. I get it. We're all super busy. Here's the replay. And then 2 days later, they hit them up with the, I saw you didn't buy. And so by segmenting them, you're able to tailor their buying experience on a mass scale. And you're able to get more return for that. You're able to make more conversions, and you're able to lower your cost to acquire a new customer. So instead of just throwing away all the people who went to the webinar and didn't buy, or who, signed up for the webinar and never went, you now have another opportunity to sell something to them. And most of your campaigns will have opportunities for that. So you always want to make sure that as you're designing it out, you've built in the segments, because once it's gone, once you've executed, once you've had your webinar or you've done that thing, it's almost impossible to go back and manually figure out who went, who didn't, and then remember to send them an email. If you're waiting until after the fact to do it, it'll just never get done. So as you're mapping out your campaigns, you want to make sure that you're including, where did it go? You want to make sure that you're including all of those steps. Make sure that you have the sequence of 4 emails for all 3 segments ready, pre-written, set on an auto timer, all triggered, ready to go. It's the same thing if you run a restaurant, or if you are a photographer and you want to segment them. So like if you're a photographer, let's just say, and you want to have it segmented. These are my wedding photography, because now I'm going to send them a special email about their anniversary photos, versus something that's different for a photo shoot you did for someone who was graduating high school or college, right? And so when you've segmented your audience, you can tailor that experience so that when you're trying to cross-sell them, it's things that they're actually interested in. What you don't want to do is send people emails that are not relevant to them, because that is the fastest way to get you off of their inbox. They'll either unsubscribe, or if they're too lazy to unsubscribe, you're training them to delete every time they see your name. So how many of you guys here have ever worried that you're sending too many emails and people are getting tired of getting your emails, and you feel like you're spammy? If you've ever felt that way, a lot of times, and you're worried about that, if you're sending people stuff that they really want to get, it's never spammy, right? When a good friend calls you, you're never annoyed, but even if they call you all the time. But when it's stuff that that's not valuable to them, or misses the mark, if you sent somebody who you just did a high school graduation photo shoot for 3 months ago, and then you send them hey, there's a sale on baby pictures. It's like, well, I don't have a baby. I just graduated high school. And so you're training them to delete and delete and delete. And so by segmenting your audience and building in those identifying markers so that you know who they are, you remember who they are, you're able to tailor future campaigns with them. And the thing that I will say about that is that the reason that we work in campaigns in this way is we're trying to get us from a state where we're not just here. When you're a new business, every sale you make is really expensive, because you're trying to get people who don't know who you are or what you do to be aware that you exist, to know you, to like you, to trust you. and then to spend their money with you. And that's a very expensive thing to do. But as your business grows, right, as your business grows, you should be pooling from up here. So when you spend a lot of money to get people to even know you exist, then they become interested. It's a little less costly. Then their prospects, it's even less costly. Then their customers, even less costly. But once they're loyal, these customers here, they're buying from you, but you have to keep reminding them, hey, I'm here, buy from me. Hey, I'm here, buying from you. These customers here, they're going to buy from you. They're going to tell all their friends to buy from you. They're going to be raving fans. And so we want to make sure that over time, our campaigns are stretching across all of these. Otherwise, you're going to keep spending it like this all the time. And most small businesses don't have enough money to sustain that. All right, guys. I'm a little over, I apologize, but I wanted to get through it and recap a little what we did last week. Does anybody have any questions before we hop off? I just put my contact information up there in case you wanted to send me a DM if you have a question, or if when you go home and you're working on this, you get stuck, you can always just send a message. Thank you, Daniela, for waiting. I'm sorry it did go over.
No, thank you. I don't know if anybody has a comment or question. Okay, well, thank you so much, Sarah, and we'll keep you guys updated about new sessions like this one. And if you're looking for other resources, you can always find our events on Facebook, or just email us to team@launchsa.org if you're looking for a specific resource or content that you can't find with us or in the community. Let us know, and that way we can maybe help you find something that works for you. And just thank you, Sarah, and till next time.
All right, we'll see you guys later.